my parents' estate was 2 or 3 million. How could I end up with more than they ever had, all of it tax-free? How is that even possible? And most people just look at their statement and say, oh, I'm doing great. At some point, this money is going to be taxed. Not if, but when. What are we going to do about it? We have vehicles to use, Roth IRAs, life insurance, all great ways to move from what I always like to call from forever tax to never tax. If you have $500,000 in an IRA, you have $500,000. But if you put that into life insurance, you could have millions on tax-free. It's the only way to print money, really.
Ed Slott, welcome to the BetterWealth Show.
Great to be here. And great to be here live with you.
It was fun. You just got off stage.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so tired.
90 minutes of you just speaking fire. You did a compressed 2-day version in 90 minutes. Why
like the greatest hits.
Yeah. Why don't you just set the stage of like when people have you come on and when you're able to speak, like what is the thesis of how like your message?
Well, you saw the message. I mean, here we were talking about the problem with people having too much in their IRAs. People think that that's a good thing. It is a good thing to have money, but if a lot of it is not yours, that's not a good thing.
Yes.
And one of the things I mentioned, which is a key point, and I think advisors need to, anybody who's watching this should need to know, the IRA, where most people have most of their retirement savings, it's like a paradox because it grows and erodes at the same time. Now, how could that be? If it grows, how could it go up and down at the same time? Because as it grows, so does the tax. And if it grows too much, the tax grows higher as a higher percentage. So you have a problem. And most people just look at their statement and say, well, I'm doing great. At some point, this money is going to be taxed. So that was my big message. Not if, but when. What are we going to do about it? And we have vehicles to use, Roth IRAs, life insurance I talked about, all great ways to move from what I always like to call from forever taxed to never tax, from tax-deferred to tax-free.
How did you get the IRA expert title? I mean, you're known, when people think of IRAs, they think of you. And I'm just curious, like, did that happen overnight?
Yeah, no, not overnight. Over time, I was getting out, I guess, in the media. People would see in my seminars. I was on PBS for 15 years, and I developed an expertise in that area. It's such a fine area. They say the sign of an expert is a person who knows more and more about less and less until they know everything about nothing. That's where I am. I'm so hyper-focused just on this one area. And some people say, well, that's a niche. And I say, yeah, but it's a pretty big one. Yeah. Everybody's got money. There are trillions of dollars in these accounts. And something has to be done unless you just want to give it all to the government.
Right. What should people know about IRAs that most people don't? Like, obviously you teach it so much, you've written books and all, like what are the things that you try to lay out around like what people should be doing? I know you mentioned Roth IRAs. I know you're a fan of the deferral, but it can be like a double-edged sword. So I would love to just hear your framework from the IRA expert on how people should be viewing IRAs based on the different ages and how they're viewing it.
Well, IRAs is, a tax-deferred vehicle. But at some point, there may be too much, and maybe you want to move more to a tax-free, just as a hedge against future higher taxes. If you notice, when I polled the audience here, how many people think taxes are going up, every hand went up. Now, they haven't gone up yet, but they may, because like I said, you have to believe in math. You look at the debt levels and the deficit. I mean, where's this money going to come from? And I think so at some point, Congress may have to lower the boom. So I'm worried about bringing these balances down while you can do it at low rates. These low rates are here now. They may not be here forever, but we have historically low rates. And if you're not taking advantage of that, you're blowing an opportunity.
Has anyone ever said, Ed, you're the IRA expert, but sometimes you are really harsh on IRAs?
Yeah. Oh, because, well, people like to, you know why they say that? When I talk about Roth conversion, sometimes people can't stand that. Why? Because it means paying some tax now. Nobody wants to pay a tax before they have to. But that's the key to all good tax planning, to pay when the rates are low, even if that means paying a tax, like to do a Roth conversion, before you are required to. What are you going to do? Sit and wait till you're 73 or 75, and by that time the IRA balance, which looks good, could be double, but so could the tax bill.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You on stage said whenever you're rounding up to the next trillion, we have issues. what is your prediction right now with where America's at with debt?
Well, we
with where
have
current taxes.
horror. I mean, you don't need me. Anybody will tell you the debt is a debt on all of us. I look at the debt. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it's 39, 40 trillion, whatever it is. What I said is if they have to round up to the nearest trillion, that's a problem.
Yep.
If you have to round up your debt to the nearest trillion. So at some point, I don't know, what are they going to do? The debt, the national debt is our debt. So I look at it as a future deferred tax on all of us. All of us in some way are going to pay a price, a piece of that. So where is the government going to get the money from? Well, the money that's easy, the low-hanging fruit. That big IRA, they said, that was the deal you made. You made that deal. Yeah. So now we're coming to collect. That would be such an easy place to grab from.
And that's essentially the message is you look at where we're at, taxes have to go up in some way.
Well, even if they don't, you can't have all your eggs in one basket, in one
right.
taxable basket. You have no tax risk diversification. Mm-hmm. Any stock investment guy will say, well, we can't put all your money in one stock.
Right.
You have to diversify. Same thing with tax planning. You have to have some tax risk
yes.
diversification. Move some to tax-free vehicles like Roth IRAs, life insurance. I'm not saying everything. Maybe it pays for some people. And I made it clear in there. What I'm saying is not for everybody. What I was telling them, that's for the advisor. That's where you come in. That's something AI can't do. You have to have the conversation with the clients. This is what you have. Where do we want to go? Begin with the end in mind. Where do we want to end up?
I'm curious to hear your framework. If someone's watching this, I have a pretty big audience that are young in their 20s, 30s, 40s. How, if you were sitting down with a 35-year-old that wanted to maximize their wealth, what would be some of the things that you would recommend them do?
I would do the Roth IRAs, only Roth. If they have 401k, convert it now if you can within the plan to a Roth while rates are low. The key to all good tax planning, I think I said it 10 times out there, and say, always pay taxes when the rates are low, even if it means paying tax before they're required. At their rate, they're in the beginning of their earnings years, even in their 30s, they're going to do much better, you assume, in their 40s and 50s. Get some of that money into the Roth 401k and do Roth IRAs and start getting, for yourself and your family, permanent life insurance to build up savings in there. I wish I did it earlier.
So for a 35-year-old, you would recommend permanent life insurance?
Oh, yeah.
Why would you, if you were to give just some of the
Well,
breakdowns?
there are exceptions. Again, I'm not a life insurance guy. I talk about 30,000-foot view. These are questions for a professional life insurance advisor, because a lot of young parents, their main goal is ensuring their lives for an early death. They have young children. Mm-hmm. Term insurance may be perfect for that. That's a different function. Mm-hmm. Sure, you want to get the most for the least for that, but at the same time, maybe they can pile in to permanent while they're young and they can manage the premiums.
On stage, you mentioned your life insurance journey, and you said that you had to go back to your advisor a couple of times asking him to put more money in. And
again, I did it later.
Yes.
I'm not saying that's for everybody.
Yes.
And that's where I get a lot of pushback. So I'm glad you asked, because everybody thinks if I say this, I mean that for everybody.
Right.
No. That's where you talk to a professional advisor, not AI. Get somebody and sit down, because you may only have one chance to get this right.
Right.
Talk to somebody and see what's best for you. You may be in a situation that none of this applies, but you should have your antennas up. I did it, let's see, I was in my mid to late 50s at that time. So I had savings. I had, I had the wherewithal to do it. Not everybody can do what I do. That's why I confused my life insurance advisor. He kept thinking I wanted to save money. I said, I want to pile this away. To me, this is another form to diversify my savings.
Yes.
So I have Roth IRAs, tax-free, cash value in life insurance, which also can pay a death benefit, but it's there if I need it during life. And I have stock accounts and cash. I mean, that's it.
Do you, from a framework standpoint, are you just reverse engineering how much net cash flow someone can have? And so if someone has an IRA, they might look like they have more money, but you just look at the cash flow.
Right. I look at how much they can use of that.
Yes.
Unless they can get it out at low rates, then maybe it's not an issue. Maybe they can keep it. I would say if you have a few $100,000, that may be okay. But in this audience, I made it clear to them to focus on the $1 million+ IRAs. Those people are going to have a tax problem. It's not, what I'm saying thing's not for everybody. But if you've built up a large IRA, one of the key things I said, the larger the IRA grows, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, they're out there with the market values up. Every one of the advisors has people like that. The larger the IRA, the more likely it is you won't spend it in your lifetime, which means more of it will be left over to the non-spouse beneficiaries, the kids and grandkids, and they're going to have to eat all that tax in 10 years after death. They may be in their own highest earnings years by then.
Yeah. Is at the time of this recording, it's 2026. Is there any world that you would recommend someone do a traditional IRA over Roth IRA, or do you think across the board Roths are the way to go?
I hate to say always and never.
Yeah,
other than my always, will always pay tax at the lowest rate, never waste a low tax bracket. Right. That's for sure. But sometimes it may pay to keep a bedrock layer of IRAs. If you don't think you're going to be in a big tax situation in retirement, you want to have some money to use up the standard or itemized deductions, some of the new ABA deductions, One Big Beautiful Bill Act deductions. So you want to have some money to use that up. What I was focusing for this audience is the people that are way over that.
You're right. Right. Do you have any predictions on, I mean, obviously Donald Trump's the president now, whether a Republican, Democrat, anything that is alarming, or you try not to tell the future? I'm curious, any Ed Slott predictions?
Well, I'll use my Yogi Berra line. He made all those famous quotes. He says, I never make predictions, especially about the future. So that was one of his nutty lines. But at some point, I think they can't, I keep saying they'll have to raise taxes, but that's not really doable because you can't, people need, it's the shock value. You can't just go crazy and do it in big leaps. So they're going to have to trim around the edges, small little things that they could kind of sneak in, like stealth taxes, tax other things. If incomes goes up, you get less of deductions. We have a lot of that now. So that would be a way that I would see that at some point they'll have to address it, but they may do it more quietly under the radar, so to speak, because, or they may go up to, there's talk right now, the top rate is 37%. I don't see it. I see it's possible to go back where it was, 39.6.
Awesome. You've said multiple times you don't sell products.
Right.
And so you try to be as objective as possible. Right. I want you to critique the life insurance space. Obviously, you're speaking at the Life Insurance Summit.
I'm preaching to the choir here.
Preaching to the choir, and I think life insurance plays an awesome role, and I feel like it has a bad rap for a reason. If you had to just play negative Nancy right now, why does life insurance have such a negative rap in so many advisors and internet pundits? Like, they think it's the worst thing in the world. And I'm just curious, don't hold anything back. I'm just wondering why that rap happens.
Well, maybe they never got a life insurance check as a beneficiary, because when that check comes in, and I told the story up there, the actual story with the beneficiary, he couldn't believe, he called me because he didn't believe that it could be true.
You said he whispered.
Yeah, whispered. Not only that, he says, it's not possible. My parents' estate was $2 or $3 million. How could I end up with more than they ever had, all of it tax-free? How is that even possible? So until you see the real value of doing it the right way, but as far as the bad rap, maybe I don't know what the answer is, but it has to be planning involved.
Yes.
Like what I'm talking about, I fit it into a plan of managing taxes, and that's the key to it, the managing taxes, not just selling insurance, because in a vacuum, that's just a sales pitch.
Right.
So maybe people think about that. Or they focus, one of the things I talk about, they focus on the death benefit. Everybody knows about the death benefit. Most people don't care about it. They say whatever they get. What's in it for me?
Right.
I think if they focus more on what's in it for them, like I do, lifetime benefits. Most people don't understand when they get a life insurance policy, that money is still there. I'm talking about the permanent, not the term. That money is still there, building cash value.
Yes.
It's not like it went anywhere. It's just in a different pocket, and it's in a better pocket. It's growing tax-free. I think if it was better explained as part of an overall plan, it's got to be part of a plan. I remember having somebody, one of my clients years ago when I did more estate planning, I had a husband and wife, and the husband was... I think he's the one that was ill. I don't remember. But anyway, I explained the whole life insurance. And again, I didn't sell it. I just said, you have too much in an IRA. Let's get some of that out. And the wife was down with it. There were 4 kids. She says, I'm doing it. I don't care what he says. And he was the older one. And she got $2 million of life insurance. And by some strange reason, she died first. She was the healthy ones. The 4 kids got $500,000 each, tax-free. Then the father, who's still alive, says, I like to get that now, but he was terminally ill then.
Wow. Yeah.
And nothing could be done. Even the kids said, could I do something? How can we get him? It's too late.
Yeah.
So back to your question, when you asked me earlier, younger people have that big advantage, but they don't always have the funds. So start small and build.
You mentioned about the permanent death benefit, and I couldn't agree more. A lot of times we don't care about the permanent death benefit, but other benefits get unlocked when you have that permanent death benefit. If you have a permanent death benefit, some of the chronic illness riders, some of the long-term care
I have
built
that
around
myself.
that.
Yeah.
So some of you can potentially play different games and be more aggressive with other assets, knowing that you have a backstop.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to do is help people understand that the death benefit actually makes the power of life insurance work, because you have that backstop. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Of course. That's the name of the chapter in my book, The Power of Life Insurance. And it's not a life insurance book. It's a tax planning book with IRAs. But my life insurance part, even though I don't sell it, I have to say it all the time because people think I'm a shill I don't have any horse in this race except I have it for myself and my family. And I believe in financial security, not for everybody, for everything. But if you can do it, you should start early whenever you can and start building it. It should be part of pretty much everybody's portfolio if you have assets, and you could have a big tax later on. But even so, as a death benefit, somebody dies early, you never know.
Right. If someone's watching this, I have advisors, but I also have consumers that watch and listen to this podcast. And if someone's watching this, when should they start considering diversifying their retirement into different tax buckets? Do you have like a dollar amount or an age amount?
No, it's a time amount. While rates are low, which they are now. If you're talking about getting some money out of the IRA, the Roth, the life, while rates are low. If you can get money out of your IRA while rates are low, even if you're 40 or 50, put it in a Roth. Don't do life insurance. I wouldn't do life insurance till you're in your 60s, as I said, because of the 10% penalty. But once you're 59 and a half, remember, this IRA to me is just another vehicle to be leveraged. I always say use it, leverage it, or lose it to potential future taxes. People sit there with this and they're doing nothing with it. It's kind of like you have another speaker he's on right now on reverse mortgages. People are not tapping into the equity in their home. And it's the same thing. Why are you not tapping into this IRA, which is now, because of the Secure Act and the 10-year rule, a horrible vehicle for wealth transfer and estate plan, very costly tax-wise. We could do better with it by using low rates and funneling in. I said they're exchanging bad assets for good assets.
I'm curious your thoughts on reverse mortgages, because reverse mortgages are very similar to life insurance. It can be misunderstood.
But that was a thing years ago, but they changed the industry. It's a great way. Again, talk to your advisor. Anyway, Tom Selleck said it's good. So, you ever see the thing on The Simpsons where they have Tom Selleck?
No,
it's a funny.
I'm showing my age on the other way.
Yeah. And Homer Simpson's, I think, talking to him, and he mimics the Tom Selleck ad. And he said, "I'd believe him if he leaned on the fence post." And they showed him. But there's something to that. And same thing with life insurance, but it has to be part of a plan. One of my key messages there were to begin with the end in mind. Remember, where do you want to end up? If this gets me there, a large IRA may not get you there. If you want larger inheritance for your beneficiaries, more control, maybe because you don't trust them with money, and minimize taxes, you got to use these vehicles as part of the plan.
And if someone is starting out as an advisor and wants to do right by people, what?
Well, that's the key. I'll stop you there. That's the key. You said it has a bad rap. It has to be all about the client. One of the things I say in all our advisor programs, always do what's best for your clients. What's in your client's best interest is always in your best interest. Always do. If you have to walk away from something, you do what's best for the client. I'm telling you, 100 times out of 100, it will come back to you that you did right by your client. And if you don't do it, that will also come back to you. Why did I have this? I didn't really need it, but it was shoved down my throat. That's the bad rap. So always do what's best for your client. One of the things you can do is get educated on the tax planning. Like we run these tax planning programs, as you know, and I think that would look good, or get somebody who is educated, work work with a tax planner, team up for the client, making sure that you're giving the client and their your future clients, the beneficiaries, the best overall plan for life and even beyond to the next generation.
Okay, so I've heard you speak a lot of different times. You have a lot of books. I've not heard your story much.
Yeah.
Could I get the origin story about how you even got into this?
It's too long, but it's too long. And there is one out there I did last year on the Kitsis.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever heard that.
Yes, yeah.
He
Michael
did like
Kitsis.
an hour on it. And I even said to him, actually, we did 2 hours. We cut it back to an hour. The whole story. Basically, I'm a CPA tax advisor. That's what I always was. I was just doing tax returns, and I saw very little value to my client in what I was doing. I was just telling them what already happened. That's called a history teacher. There's no value in that. So I realized maybe I'll get into planning where I can help them save a lifetime's worth of taxes. Yeah. And that's where people saw higher value in what I was doing. And I was going out and doing seminars to promote estate planning. Back in the 80s, this was in late 80s, early 90s. Estate taxes were off the charts. The exemption when I first started was like $200,000, $300,000, $600,000 for a few years. Now it's $15 million. So people are not that focused. For a married couple, it's $30 million now. But back then, it was a big deal. If you had a large IRA, you would get hammered between the estate tax and the income tax. So I saw real value of talking about that as a specialist in that area.
What year was this?
Well, it hit me in the 86 Tax Act when all the IRA rules came out. And I always had this thing from a client story I told out there about the value of a specialist. Yep. And I said, that was the epiphany. That was it for me. I said, oh, wow, look at all these rules just to get the money out of an IRA. It's going to affect everybody. And nobody's going to know anything about it. And I realized, look at all these tax rules. They're so complicated. It was like reading Sanskrit or Russian or something. And I said to me, that was my epiphany. I said to myself, this is going to affect everyone and nobody's going to understand it. Plus, I was just in my early 30s.
Interesting. Okay.
And like you.
I love it.
Yeah. The problem was I was doing the estate planning, but I was like 30, 31, 32. Well, I was 32 in 86. And, but I was doing the estate planning before, but it was hard to pick up clients because I was 30. I was in my late 20s. The people doing it had much more experience than me. They were in their 60s or 70s. They were so far ahead of me. But when that 86 Tax Act came out with all these rules, it was in the regulations, I said, that's it. That's for me. That's my lane. It's so complicated. These old guys, they're not going to go learn a new language now. Yeah. I'm learning it. I'm starting a genre that doesn't even exist, tax planning for retirement accounts. So I went to town, learning this for a couple of years, just focusing on this because I knew I was onto something. I made one big, bold prediction. I said to myself, in 30 years, anybody that's still alive will be 30 years older. Yeah, I know. Groundbreaking. And I just looked at the long-term big picture. It's going to affect everybody as these accounts start picking up steam. Estate tax planning, it doesn't even exist. That genre didn't even exist. So that's when I started going out and doing seminars on an area that nobody could compete with because it didn't exist before.
When was it when you're like, oh, I'm onto something? Because you're iconic now. I don't know when was it in your third, like was it when you filled up a workshop? Was it when you become a best-selling author? Like, I'm just curious.
Well, I think it's all things. I remember a PR firm called me years later when I was into it, and they said, we're a big PR firm. We have a major financial, I think it was a major bank. I don't want to give the name, but they said, we look at the Wall Street Journal every day, Ed Slott's in this, and they said, what about us? How come we can't get in there? So the PR firm says, what are you doing then? I could share. He wants me to do his job. So I played along. I said, oh, that's easy. I could tell you exactly. And I give them a list of like 10 things or something like that I do every day and I've been doing for years. And I said, and you do these 10 things. Tell the guy, they do this and their whole firm is committed and they do these 10 things every day. After 20 years, it's going to happen overnight.
Do you remember those 10 things?
Just obviously learning the thing, using it, talking to clients about it, going out doing seminars. I did radio shows. Yeah, we're doing a podcast. I did these before they existed.
Wow.
I had a weekly radio show. I had a weekly TV spot. I wrote articles for the local papers, the Tribunes. They went to all the little towns and things. So I did all these things. If I told you all the things, people would say, well, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So that's what I basically told them. All these things. I saw clients. I went out and did seminars. One of the best things I did is join my state society of CPAs. As a CPA, I was a sole practitioner. I didn't really have a lot of help. You have partners that had expertise in other areas. So I found people through the state society by joining the committees and getting in with other tax people that really knew their stuff. And what the committees do, it's probably in any field, any professional field, they educate the rest of the profession. So I started doing seminars for them on things that forced me to learn even more things and get good input from a lot of minds that had 30 years of experience on me. And so then I used a lot of that to do these seminars, and then they started getting noticed by financial advisors and insurance advisors, brokers back then. And they used to show up trying to figure out what I was doing, because back then there was no internet or anything. So I advertised in the newspaper. That was it, the local newspaper. So they kept seeing my ads in the paper, and they probably thought I was making a fortune, which I wasn't, because I was just starting, but I believed in what I was doing. I knew I was onto something. So they probably thought I was making so much money that they started showing up at my seminars were for consumers, to get clients for my CPA tax and estate planning practice. And they started showing up. I knew who they all were because they all had suits and ties sitting in the back, and the rest were retirees. But they came there to see, what is this guy up to? They thought I was a competitor. But once they heard, like I said here, I don't sell any products. I'm just a tax advisor. They started saying, wait a minute. Maybe we could do something with this guy. We don't, he's an asset. He's not a competitor.
Yes.
Can you do? And also, I think they came there thinking, whatever he says, I'm sure we can do it. But they couldn't, because they didn't have that knowledge.
Yes.
So they came up to me it happened over time. I said, can you do this for my firm? And then this happened over and over and over again. And then I started getting into like their national conferences, and then I was everywhere. But at the same time, I was doing media. I was doing everything at once. So that's when it all hit. And that's when the whole business changed. Then we went full time into doing consumer programs. I gave you a little piece of that here, how I do my insurance section for the consumers, because I wanted the advisor to see how to talk to people about life insurance, so you see the value there. So I was doing consumer programs and then advisor programs, and we do several, as you know, big advisor training programs all over the country. So all these things together, you ask the same question everybody asks, what's the silver bullet? It's doing a whole bunch of things, and here's the key word: consistently over time. You never let up.
There's a lot of life lessons on what you just shared. You have a 2-day workshop that you do. What is, if you had to give like a summary of the topics that you're talking about in 2 days?
And probably the whole world of IRA tax planning. What I'm talking to you about, there's so many facets we go through, just to give you not topic by topic, because we cover everything. We go through in 2 days, solid days, no fluff, all killer, no filler, no fluff, nothing. We start 9 to 5. I think the second day we start even at 8. And we go through a 400-page manual, 400 pages in 2 days, loaded with the latest tax rules. And they're loaded with the way I learned. I always learned by examples. I never like when somebody just read the law. Well, how does it apply?
Right.
So we give them, and we speak in English. I think it was Albert Einstein who said, if you can't explain it so a 6-year-old understands it, you don't understand it yourself. And I always believe that, because when I was starting my CPA practice, my CPA years, I would go to tax seminars to learn, and I couldn't sit through them. They were just spouting. You didn't really. I remember sitting there one time, and this was also a full day thing, and I'm saying, when is lunch? And I looked, it was 9:15. It was only 15 minutes. And that's what gave me an idea. I never really put it together. I said, somebody's got to make this fun and energetic and exciting. And that's the key to our program, as you saw here. Imagine 2 days of what you saw here at that same level with my team of experts. We make it fun. We have videos, but everything's focused on learning with examples. Horror stories are big. Here's what happened to real people. One of the things I always say there's a saying, people say, learn from your mistakes. mistakes. I always say that's pretty dumb saying. I'd rather learn from other people's mistakes because it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So we show them actual court cases, real names, real people, rulings, cases, law, where people lost sometimes their whole retirement savings because they didn't know this rule or that rule. And so we go through all of that. And people go out with their heads spinning. But the one comment we get by the end of the 2 days, we got two comments. One is usually one word, confidence. They said, you know what? I have more confidence now because I know what I don't know. And that was the other thing. They would say, we'd have people saying, I've been doing this for 30 years. I can't believe how I wasn't sued yet. What I learned here, I learned how much I don't know and how much there is to know, how deep these waters are. And that's what puts them over the top. But even after that, people who go through our 2-day program, they usually say, I want to dig in even deeper because they see the opportunity to attract multi-million-dollar IRAs, which they do. By the way they speak, they're more confident. They attract the better clients. They say, I want to learn more. So about 22 years ago, we started a higher level called Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group. And that's a membership group for people that have gone through like the basic training, the 2-day. And that's a membership group. And the biggest benefit of that, we do several programs and workshops and webcasts with them all throughout the year. They're with us all throughout the year. But the biggest benefit, they have us as a back office. Me and my team of experts, they don't have to worry. They just have to know what they don't know. They call us. They get us on the phone right away, just like I was talking here. We answer the phone. We answer the emails. So the back office support, they'll have a client in there and say, I'm not sure about this, but I have the Ed Slott team. I'll get them right on here. And sometimes that can seal the deal right in that room. And they have access to the 4 of us, my 3 experts and me. And I think that's the biggest benefit. It gives them so much confidence to take business where the average advisor might say, I don't know anything about it. Our guys may say, I don't know everything about it, but I know there's something there. Let me call my team.
Yes.
And that's the biggest benefit. And we've had people in that group. There's some people that have been there the whole over 20 years. Wow. Most of them been there over 10 years or 15 years because the tax rules are always changing. So the value is just piling on. So those are our main programs.
Do you see the tax code changing to like consumption tax, or do you think like what do you?
No.
Okay.
No, because I hate to be cynical is the word, but Congress would never allow it. They love the tax code because it has like a lot of cutouts and goods and nooks and crannies in it they can give to their constituents. I want a tree for this. I want something for that business.
How would you solve Social Security if it was up to you? If they said, Ed, like, how do we solve the dooming?
Well, that's one area they're going to have to tax more of it, but I don't know if that's going to work because a young person like you, I mean, I'm good with all of it because I'm on the receiving end, but I paid my dues. You know, it's not, people say it's a benefit or a giveaway, but I paid into that. You know, they tell you, if you look at the statements, the money each month is almost like a joke. It tells you how much you've paid into the program, you know, over $1 million. I'll never get that back. So that's my own money coming back. I don't know if that's going to be the case for young people. You might have a different point of view. I don't want to pay into this because
if you were the government we have $40 trillion of debt.
Well, you're going to have to do something.
What would you do though?
It would have to transition to something else when it gets down to people, the younger people, because they're not going to put up with paying.
What would you do? Like, would you raise taxes? Would you
You'd have to raise
disallow
taxes.
Social Security for certain people that make too much money?
Yeah, probably raise the wage base. They're going to have to do something because they're not. It's they always call it the third rail. No politician wants to touch it, right?
Right.
So the people like me, the older people, they vote. They're not going to touch it. So I'm not worried for people near Social Security or like me already getting it. I'm more worried for, I may say this wrong, Gen X, Y, Z. I don't even know which. Are you Gen Z?
I'm Gen Z.
Y?
Yeah, I'm Gen Z or a very young millennial. It just depends.
A millennial is X?
I don't know.
I can never figure it out. But as they go down, they're going to have to change it. Now, you're paying in already, younger people, and they might say, well, what am I paying in for? I'll never see. So it has to be something at the end of the road for it because I think it's a necessity because, you know, when it started after, World War II or 30, I don't know when it started. FDR signed it into law maybe in the 30s or 40s. I don't remember. But it was to support people, but not in full. It was supposed to be just a part.
And life expectancy, I believe, was 67.
Right.
So
well,
it wasn't meant to be a 30-year deal.
The story is, I don't know if it's true, but it's in every book. The reason they got age 65 is because they figured out it was a guy named Otto von Bismarck. If you ever read about him, he was one of the guys that figured out, he says, make it 65. And again, this is a story, but there might be some truth behind it because this is what you read about in books. If you make the benefits collection age 65, nobody's going to collect because they'll all be dead. Everybody dies after 65, which is true. With my grandparents, it was only the oddball person, from the 50s or 60s that lived into the 80s and 90s. But now a lot of people are living into their 90s. So, they're going to have to change, fundamentally have to change the system where either you get your own account or turn it into something else where you benefit from everything you put in, while at the same time saving the money for people who are already deep into it, like me. Save it for me.
Are you a fan of annuities? And
yes.
How would you explain
But again, not for everybody. Yeah. Whenever I say that, he's in with the annuity company. Again, you just saw me talk about I had the experience with my own mother. You think I ever thought of annuities at that time? I didn't realize she was independent for her whole life. You know how valuable that is? One of the lines I just said in this program, the greatest gift you can give your family is the gift of your own financial security. Nobody wants to rely on their kids. And she had that. We didn't even realize that's the gift she gave us because she had those 4 or 5 annuities. She got those checks every month, no matter how old she got, no matter how sick she got, no matter how the market performed. And she had her own dignity, her own financial security. Nobody had to help her, even when she got sick. She even had long-term care. And that was another thing with her. She didn't want to pay it at the end. She said, it's 4 or 5,000. I said, Ma, 4 or 5,000. I'm going to pay that. I'd rather pay 5,000 a year than 100,000 a year. And sure enough, when she needed it, that did pay 100, 200,000. Those policies don't exist anymore. But there's something to the annuities, not for everybody. I didn't get to say it there. I went off in another tangent. But for whatever your basic monthly living expenses, I think everybody should have some kind of guaranteed income because you can't rely on the stock market, especially going into retirement. I think income is more important than savings because savings can run out or be lost. Yeah. But it's not for everybody. I have a mix. I have annuities because I followed what my mother had, but I have them. And the thing I love about annuities, guaranteed income for life. There's something to be said. I think Van Miller used a saying, which I've heard him say before, and I may get it wrong. Do you want to be rich? Or do you remember the line? He says, would you rather be rich or would you rather not be poor?
I'd rather not be poor.
Right. And that's where some of these annuities, not for everything. So guaranteed income for life. I did it in my Roth IRAs because I love guaranteed income for life. But the only thing I love better, as you just heard, is guaranteed tax-free income for life. So I have a piece of that in my Roth, but not for everything. Everything in moderation. So when you hear me say, I like life insurance, annuities, Roth, not every, it's a mix. I think moderation, diversification is good across the board.
Yes.
And not everything is for everyone, but everyone that has built up a significant net worth, whether it's in IRAs or elsewhere, you have to start looking ahead to protect that so it will last as long as you do and beyond.
I'm curious your thoughts on the crypto market.
You know what? I'm an old fogey. I don't understand it, so I wouldn't go near it. Because, again, I'm in my 70s already. I'm in the point I don't want to lose money. But had I got in when it's early, I'd be a trillionaire or something,
And Warren Buffett's very similar. It's like he's not going to invest in something he doesn't understand.
Well, because he says and he's right, there's no bricks or mortar. He likes a business that makes things and shows an income. And this is a whole new thing. It's really what he calls it, and I agree with that too, is he calls it the greater fool's theory, where you hope, the only reason you're buying it is you hope a greater fool will buy it at a higher price. But that's almost like a Ponzi scheme, if you think about it. So what happens when the bottom falls out? I would say if you're doing well, probably keep a little, but take some of those profits off.
Any thoughts on gold and silver?
I don't know that much about it, but the same kind of thing, although gold is physical and silver is physical, And people say it's a hedge against inflation, but where are you going to put it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If everything falls to crap, what are you going to do?
Gardens and guns might be a better.
Right. So it sounds good, but where are you going to get, who's going to take gold for, here's a gold piece for a dozen eggs?
Yeah. I'm with you. It is, it's interesting because sometimes it's being sold as like the dollar's collapsing, but if the dollar collapses, we have bigger issues, and we have mayhem on our hands. Yeah, and then it's gonna be like, do you have land and guns?
Yeah, is your gold even gonna be there?
Right.
Like, if it's like you said, some people keep it in a safe. So what?
Yes. Okay. So as we end,
again, I'm not expert in that.
I know. I just since I have you here, I just would love to get your thoughts.
I invest in things very much similar to Warren Buffett. He invests what he understands. Yes. If you remember, for years he didn't invest with his best friend Bill Gates in Microsoft because he didn't understand it.
Yes.
Came around though.
Yeah. I got one request, one last question before we end. Could you, and I'll give you as much time as you want, just reiterate some of the things that you made about life insurance just on stage? Like, I know that you talked about your consumer talk, and I would just love to hear it. Like, if you had to just articulate where life insurance plays a role, I just would love to hear it from you and on this show. If you're a high-earning professional, entrepreneur, or someone who wants more control over your money, we offer something called a clarity call. It's a one-on-one conversation where we learn more about your situation and walk you through how integrating whole life insurance could help better your financial situation. It's no pressure or fluff, just real clarity on whether this strategy is right for you. Click the link in the description or tag comment below, and we'll walk you through exactly how we can help you.
It's the only way to print money, really. I mean, the leverage to me is amazing, plus the death benefit. Everybody knows the death benefit, but I'm talking about cash value. And there's a case for term, like I said earlier. I don't talk about that because more for young families, which I'm sure you would agree. You have a young family, you get the most insurance for the shortest amount of time. But at some point, you have to move into that. It's part of diversification. I'm talking about permanent cash value. I'm a big fan because I have it myself, and I see the buildup, and it's another asset on your balance sheet that you have access to that may be more solid than the banks. I didn't say that there because I don't want to get people scared, but I mean, and it's more reliable than the tax law. Tax laws change all the time. You don't see life insurance laws change. And life insurance has always had that big tax exclusion for the death benefit. That is a major benefit. And I think everybody should look into it for the right reason. So I talked about I was talking to insurance advisors who obviously I was preaching to the choir, but it's interesting as much as they know. And everyone in that room was more of a life insurance expert than me. I use it for tax planning. But as I was looking out, and you may have noticed it too, I saw the heads go, oh, I didn't think of that. Oh, I didn't think of that. And you just told me somebody was writing 10 pages. These are people.
10 pages of notes. I was like, wow.
These are people that are doing it already. Yeah. So I'm preaching to the choir, but the big idea is leverage your money. I start with the IRA. We talked about that earlier. For many people, not everybody, there's too much money in there. You can leverage that by getting some of that out at low rates, putting it into a life insurance policy that can grow tax-free, and you can draw from it if you need it. Turns out most people never need it, but they like to know it's there if they did need it. Most people love watching the life insurance, the cash value build up. I know I did. I looked every year at my statement. I would say two things about Roth IRAs and life insurance that they have in common. Everybody that bought the bullet, took some money out, paid some tax or whatever, and put it in Roth IRAs or life insurance. I have never seen any buyer's remorse with Roth IRAs and life insurance. In fact, it's the opposite. Most people with Roth IRAs and life insurance wish they had more because they see the value and they get their statements of it growing up and up, tax-free. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to worry about the uncertainty of what future tax rates could do to your standard of living in retirement. So the big message there was the permanent insurance, the lifetime benefits, to use lifetime benefits. And I focused on the thing that keeps people up at night most, medical bills, medical expenses. That can be taken care of from life insurance, just to have peace of mind. You get so much, in my opinion, you get so much bang for your buck. If you have $500,000 in an IRA, you have $500,000. But if you put that into life insurance, you could have millions.
Right.
on tax-free.
Yeah.
So there's the leverage. Plus you have death coverage from day one. So it takes a lot off your head. It's the whole peace of mind. And I think it's a more solid investment than most other investment because of the guarantees. I'm not saying everybody should have everything, but guarantees carry a high premium in my book.
Yeah. Do you, just a follow-up question on the life insurance, it's tax advantage?
Oh, yeah.
Why is it tax advantage? And do you ever see that being threatened in the future?
No, it's too good. I think every congressman has it. It started out, you probably know the history better than me, but what I read about it years ago when the breadwinner died, there was no money. So they gave it that benefit to make sure the breadwinner, he dies, the family is taken care of. And why do you think government does it? For the same reason they encourage through the tax code, they incentivize people through the tax code to give to charity and to get life insurance. You know why the government does that and why I think it'll never go away? Because if you don't take care of it for yourself, the government's going to have to, and they don't want to. They don't have enough money. They'd rather give you the tax incentive and you take care of it for your own family. So that's the thinking behind that. And that's why I think they'll never take that exemption away. They want people to take care of themselves and their families so they don't have to.
Any final words before I ask you my last question?
You did my final words? I cut you off. Say it again.
Any final words before I ask you my last question?
All right. Well, I'm going to give you my final words. What you did here is amazing. First time I've seen it. I'm very impressed. 30 years old. What was I doing at 30?
Well, you were doing seminars.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But everybody was you're onto something here. But here's what I think. You talked about you have tiles with the 30 years up there. But what's going on here, I was telling Van backstage while we were sitting, I said, Van, like these things, everybody here, especially Van has a long history in there, long experience. And what Caleb is doing now, this is having a ripple effect. Even Caleb doesn't quite get his hands around. You take everybody in that room and other rooms, where everybody who listens to you, you're all out there. Remind me of myself where I was doing, they didn't call it podcast yet. They called it radio and TV. But think about the ripple effect, the financial security you're creating. It's not just you helping advisor. Every advisor has maybe, it could be thousands of advisors. Each of them have 1,000 clients or hundreds of clients. Each of them have friends and kids and grandkids. The financial security that even an event like this is throwing out, you're not going to see the ripple effect, but I'm telling you, it's there. And you should feel great about it, that what you're creating here is all good for people, if it's obviously done the right way and you're educating people. I think education is so important. Clients and consumers should know that their advisors are educated. I'm not just talking about selling, educating, come up if you don't know about the tax plan, because that's a big part of it. The life insurance is a big piece, but it can't be in a vacuum. It's got to be in an overall plan. And that's what you're doing here. People are getting educated on all sorts of topics. You're going for a few days here, and I think that's great. And people should know what you're doing here, and at such a young age. So the families that are being helped, you'll never meet.
Thank you, Ed. That means the world.
I don't know if you ever think like that.
Yeah, well, someone asked me recently about legacy, and I think we have a lot of work to do. But it's one of those things where it's like the ripple effect is real. I am here because of the ripple that you've done. I've been impacted by people that have directly been impacted by you. And so this is a good example of you don't always know the work that you do or who's going to read the book or who's going to get impacted, what question that's going to inspire. So it means a lot.
Yeah, as long as you're doing what's best for the client, best for the consumers. That's always the way. Yes, in any business, it could be bad apples, and that's not what I'm talking about. You could find that in any business. You could have a bad construction guy, or. So it's all about trust and value, and a big part of that is showing people that you're educated, that you invested in your education to give them a better plan.
Okay, you ready for the non-financial
all right,
question?
I don't even know what
you can't quote the tax code, okay?
No, I have nothing.
If this was your last day on earth and you were with the people that you love the most and you could not give them any books, any seminars, any videos, but you just had a conversation with them, what would you share and why?
Wait. Do you think if this was my last day on earth, I would do a seminar to my kids?
You have a conversation. I wouldn't call it a seminar.
Say, you have these.
What would you share? Like, I'm just curious. Like, what is the most sacred,
well, I think
meaningful
we've
thing?
taught those lessons to give back, to do good for people, without even telling it. It's one of my favorite things to say to people, try and do for the greater good, something for somebody else, whether they know it or not. And even if you don't get credit, just keep that mindset, because I believe it comes back. Imagine if, I always imagine, like, if, of course it's utopian, but imagine if everybody once a day did something. It doesn't have to be a big thing. You help somebody across the street. Something's good for some person once a day if everybody did that. Can you even imagine the power of that? Yeah. So that's what I would still in that. Whatever you have, use it to help people. And I don't think there's a higher calling than that. And I really believe that if people could do that, again, that's called utopia, rather than being mean to people and things like that. And because in the end, all of these little grievances don't really mean anything. What you leave behind is only the goodness. Yeah. If you think about it, if you go to a funeral, you always hear the good things. Not everybody who died was a good person, but you never hear anything bad. The worst thing you'll say is, oh, that guy was a character. But it's always, people will focus, that's what they'll remember most, whatever happened, but he did good for his family. He did this, he did that. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would get across to them. And I would say, if this is the last day on earth, what do you want to do? And I would say, let's just go get pizza, really good pizza, one last time.
I love it. Ed, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Caleb. You're doing a great job here. I'm proud to be a part of it for the first time.